Hey guys, welcome to a pilot episode of something I'm going to call explorations, I guess. We'll see, it might change over time. For now, that's what it is. I don't want to talk too much about myself. I'm a uni student in the sunny, bright northeast UK. It's looking pretty standard, but I think it's nice because it's pretty around here. Anyway, I like exploring things, namely books. I like talking about books. I like exploring the concepts behind books, like the philosophical concepts, like the plot of books, the themes, what they're trying to convey, and more than anything, how it makes me feel and the effect that it has on how I live my life. For some reasons, lately I've been interested in the work of Ayn Rand, and I was recommended to read Atlas Shrugged. Big book, big chunky book. I don't know when the last time I tried to read a book. It was the Adventures or Misadventures of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Noor by Susanna Clarke. Because Susanna Clarke is one of my favourite authors. Piranesi, amazing book. Really recommend it. Anyway, I thought it'd be fun if I do a chapter by chapter sort of, not a read through, not necessarily ignore that. Not necessarily an analysis, but just my reaction, thoughts and feelings. Maybe later when I try and throw some analysis in there, but yeah, without further ado, chapter 1. So I got through the first chapter of this book this morning. This first chapter is called The Theme, and I think it's pretty much what it says there. I think it sets the theme of the book, although I also think there's a bit of misdirection because, for one, the size of this book, I'm about 27 pages deep, there's about 1,000. We set through the theme. There's the Taggart Transcontinental Railway, a huge sprawling train company that had glory days not that long before, in the time of our protagonist's father. Our protagonist right now is Eddie Wilders, I suppose, who's the assistant to Dagner Taggart, who is the brother of James Taggart, who is the current president or executive of the company. Essentially, the railway faces an uncertain future. The road's changing a lot. The railway's changing a lot. The demand hotspots aren't what they used to be, and the company's struggling to keep up with the times. Furthermore, their rails are also struggling to keep up with the times. They need replacing. There hasn't been a good system, it seems, for that. Their signalling system's broken, as we find out later on in the chapter when we get to Dagner's perspective. And James, the president, is not doing much about it. He's kind of lame, to be honest. He's all if and button. He's scared to do anything without the consult of the whole chair. He doesn't want to form an opinion for the fair that if something is seen to be wrong, it falls back on his opinion. He can't handle taking that responsibility, and so he shies away from being responsible for anything. Even though he no matter what, he's the president, right? He has responsibility over the success of the company. He's been preventing them from moving to Red and Steel by his own choice. That's his responsibility. But he wouldn't even accept that. He'd say, oh, the board approved this deal, therefore I can only go with this deal. You're making no effort to have a new deal go through. But that's what Dagner does. She goes and she privately makes the call with James Reardon, I think his name was, or something else. Mike Reardon, I don't know. Something Reardon from Reardon Steel. And not only does she make the new steel contract with him, I missed a bit of context, but I think I mentioned the rail lines need replacing. They need new steel to replace the rail lines. Not only does she make a new contract with him, but she also chooses their new untested steel called Reardon Steel. Reardon Metal, I don't think it's steel at all actually, but it's meant to be cheaper and harder and longer lasting. So it's just a miracle product. We'll see if it really works, we don't know. But Dagner has a background in engineering, she's seen the science, she trusts it, and she's going with it. And she basically manhandles James into making that choice. There's a lot to talk about in these relationships. There's a lot to talk about in the setting of the theme that the Taggart Transcontinental Rail Company is this dying old breed construct. It's not where it used to be. It's hollow, as they sort of refer to it in reference to talk about an old big oak tree that Eddie Wilders, who is the assistant to Dagner, as I mentioned, he saw that tree in the Taggart estate get struck by lightning in his youth, and he thought that tree would never fall. But when it got struck by lightning, it fell in half instantly. and it turns out it was rotten and hollow on the inside. And I think that sets us up again the theme for what's going to happen here. I think the explosion of the oil industry in Colorado. It seems Ellie Ellie Ellis something Ellis Silver, I don't know. He finds some sort of new method for getting oil out of the ground. I don't know much about the oil industry. I don't know what he does, but he's found something new. And now Colorado's become a roaring financial hotspot in this tough time America's going through. You know, a quarter of shops are closed. As Eddie walks down the street, he sees a quarter of the shops just not just closed, but no business. You know, just no business occupying, which is a sad state for Fifth Avenue in New York, from what I know about it. Never been there, but I know it's a good street. So yeah, so due to that lack of, you know, America's in a downturn, a place like Colorado suddenly being the center of business, you need to get there. You need to be working. But the Rio Norte line, which the Taggart Continental has, doesn't function. It's not on schedule. When it is on schedule, trains break down. It is unreliable and not always there. You know, sort of like the fucking tube. No, the tube's good, but the overground in the UK leaves a lot to be desired. But for a long time, they had no competition like the overground. So they just went along with it until a competitor, can't remember their name either, forgive me, I'll do my homework next time. But yeah, a competitor builds a better line in the area. It's like Phoenix to Artuga or something like that. I'm also not American, I don't know these names too. I know Phoenix is in Texas, but it moves north through Wyoming, through Colorado. And all the oil business moving of the oil is moving to that new train company. James isn't worried about that. He is, but he won't show it. He won't admit it, and he won't do anything about it. As Dagner and Eddie, they see the writing on the wall. They see that the direction things are moving, time is not treating them well. That's a theme too I noticed in the book. Eddie is nervous about time. He's so nervous about time. I think he's aware that during his father's day, time was fond of them, you know? Business grew and they grew and the road exploded throughout the US. But in Eddie's time, it shrivels. It's shriveling and it's shrinking and he doesn't know how to deal with that. He doesn't have to deal with like facing sort of failure that his father might never have. He's not ready for this. He's not prepared for this. Until Dagner comes in and she, you know, manhandles James, takes responsibility for what she has to take responsibility for, gets that new steel ordered and tries to move things ahead. She wants to compete. She's here to fight. Not even in a violent sense. And she even thinks that she won't have to bury the competition out of the market. She thinks in such a big market, there's room for many rail companies to thrive. But she's here to do what she can. And even if she was to fail, I think there's that confidence you find in saying, I did what I could. That makes you rest easy, lie down and sit. That's how I feel when it comes to my time at uni. There's a lot of things I struggle with, a lot of things, and I find there's a lot of things hard, but when I can look at myself and say, you know, before exam day, I sit there and I think I've given it my all. What happens is what happens. What happens is what happens. And I can feel good about that. So instantly, I feel like I can relate to Dagmar, or at least I want to relate to Dagmar. I find her inspiring. I want to be like her. I want to make the complicated simple and set the path through. Let's go. I'm curious about how the scope of this book might change. I imagine the Taggart Transcontinental line is certainly a big part of it. I wonder if these characters that we have right now are going to be here forever. I wonder if they're, because it's such a big book. Who the fuck is John Galt too? I know it's like a question, like how long's a piece of string, but it's such a specific name. I hope they explore the origins of that name. Maybe that's to do with the synopsis where they say how like great men have left. Maybe John Galt was a great man who maybe just disappeared. Sort of like how there's that Fifth Symphony that Diagon talks about from that artist who's made 4 that are known, but then hasn't made anything in the last 8 years. Where the hell is he? Maybe like that sort of story is similar with John Galt and I don't know. Well, they're asking who is John Galt, not where is John Galt, but you understand what I mean, right? Yeah. Anyway, I sort of fear making this too long, so I'm gonna stop now. That's been chapter 1 of Atlas Shrugged. I've never read it before. This is my first read through. I don't know anything about this book, to be honest. I don't want to talk too much about Ayn Rand and commentary on the history and the politics, I guess, or the philosophy. I just want to talk about my experience with the book. So that's what I'm gonna stick to today. If there's any demand for that, let me know. And we can explore doing further, but that's what I'm interested in right now. So yeah, hopefully I'll have chapter 2 out within the week. Maybe you can read it with me. I think that'd be fun. Cool. Alright. Signing off. Oh, that was awkward.